Hi, this is Ms. Pettigrew, and today we're going to take a look at Topic 12, Lesson 2. You'll be determining the hypotenuse of right triangles using the Pythagorean theorem. Alright, let's talk for just a second about what we did in class today. This should be a review. First of all, what is the Pythagorean theorem formula? Keep in mind that is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. What visual did we create that helps us understand it? Remember, that was the starburst activity that we did in class today, where we found the area of the squares using the side length of each side of the right triangle. When do we use the formula? We're going to use the formula to find the missing side length. And what type of triangles does this apply to? Remember, this only applies to right triangles. And we discussed all of this in class today, so all of that should be a review. Just make sure you have all of that information in your notes. Alright, so let's go ahead and look at finding the hypotenuse, which is the missing side length from this triangle. Notice you do have a right triangle, and we're going to use the formula a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Let's go ahead and fill in our pieces. If you remember from class today, the two legs are the ones that make the right triangle, and that's going to be your A and your B. So let's go ahead and label those. And now let's fill in the formula. So A is going to be 9, so that's 9 squared, plus B is 12, so that's 12 squared, equals C squared. So let's go ahead and square everything. 9 squared is 81. 12 squared is 144. And that's going to be equal to C squared. And then we're going to go ahead and add 81 plus 144. And that's going to be 225. And that should be equal to C squared. 225 equals C squared. And if you remember, when we're solving equations, we cannot have, the variable has to be completely by itself, completely isolated. So if you remember from square roots, the way we undo a squared number is we find the square root. So we're going to take the square root of c squared, and then we're going to take the square root of 225. And so c is equal to 15. Okay, and then we're going to make sure we write our final answer with a label. We're going to go back up here and see that this is yards, so our final answer is going to be 15 yards. Alright. And then, if you remember from class today, we were using the starburst to do this activity, but this is very similar to it. So we have a triangle that has a side length of 3. The other side length, the other leg, is also 3. So the area of this side is going to be 3 squared, which is 9. The area of this side is also going to be 3 squared, which is 9. And if we add those two together, 9 plus 9, we get 18. Okay? And if we try to use one of these squares, if we notice this is a 4 by 4, it's a little bit too short. And then if we try to use this square, which is a 5 by 5, it's going to be a little bit too big. So sometimes we cannot create squares that work evenly. So we're going to have to use the Pythagorean theorem to prove our answer. So basically on this one, what's happening is, if we look at the next slide, you notice that you have the 3 squared plus the 3 squared, so that's 9 plus 9, 18 equals c squared. So you would have to find the square root of 18. And we know that the square root of 18 falls between 4 and 5, so it's going to be closer to 4. And so we're going to have the square root of 18 being slightly over the square root of 16, so just slightly over 4. Alright, so let's look at a couple of examples where we're not going to end up with a completely perfect square. So again, we're going to use the Pythagorean theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Let's go ahead and fill everything in. That's going to be, alright, so we're going to have 7 squared plus 3 squared equals c squared. So that's going to be 49 plus 9 equals c squared. 49 plus 9 is going to be 58 is equal to c squared. And so we're going to need to figure out the square root of 58, which is going to be approximately between the square root of 49 and the square root of 64. And so it's going to be slightly closer to the square root of 64. So we know it's going to be bigger than 7.5, so it's going to be approximately 7.6. And make sure you do a label of feet. Alright, the last one is, again, using the formula a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And let's label everything. A and b are our two legs. C is going to be your hypotenuse. And so that's 2 squared plus 5 squared equals c squared. So that's 2 squared is 4 plus 25 equals c squared. And that's 29 equals c squared. And then again, you're going to have the square root of 29 being between the square root of 25 and the square root of 36. And it's slightly closer to the square root of 25, which is 5. So we're going to say it's about 5.3. And our label would be feet. Alright, now that you've watched this video, the last thing that you have to do is log into Digits, go to the To-Do folder, click on 12-2 Homework, and complete the 4 problems that are there.